Well, well, well. After 40 days, the longest shutdown in our government's history has finally ended. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to... I guess we're not really calling this the other day anymore. It didn't really make much sense to have another show on our page, so it's just going to be called HTL Shorts from now on. But welcome to HTL Shorts. We got some great news to go over. Well, like we said at the beginning, the government shutdown has finally over. Is finally over. Yesterday, at the time of this filming, the 9th of November, Senate Majority Leader John Thune called for another vote after trying to open the government up for 15 times, which a majority of Senate Democrats voted against 15 times. And finally, 7 Democrats and 1 independent voted for opening the government. But don't get this twisted. The Dems get absolutely nothing they wanted. Everything that they asked for at the beginning when they first introduced their counter proposal in the Senate is not even on this bill. They got nothing. John Fetterman, a Democrat from Pennsylvania who has been leading the charge for the past 40 days to open the government up on his side, posted to the platform formerly known as X, "After 40 days as a consistent voice against shutting our government down, I voted yes for the 15th time to reopen. I'm sorry to our military, SNAP recipients, government workers, and Capitol Police who haven't been paid in weeks. It should have never come to this. This was a failure." And thus, finally, the longest government shutdown in our history has ended. But why? Why did it shut down, and why is it open back up? Was it because of healthcare? Nope. I covered this in my first video on the government shutdown. I went over all the reasons, and they haven't really changed now. But let's do a quick rundown for those who are new to this. The Republican-held House passed a clean resolution to fund the federal government for 2026 at the end of September into early October. The Republican thinly held Senate voted for the CR, but Dems voted against it. The Senate Dems, Democrats for those who aren't savvy, the Senate Democrats cited concerns over healthcare for Americans, but really it was about wanting to continue free healthcare for illegal immigrants, with which Trump's big beautiful bill, kicked off. Including not just illegal immigrants, but also kicked off able-bodied men from Medicaid who didn't need to be on it in the first place. But really, this whole thing is because Chucky Schuh, the Senate Minority Leader, was afraid that the more fanaticals on the left would vote him out for working with the right. If you want to know more about the whole process, from how the government gets funded and how they make these bills to then fund the next year, go and find that video on the channel. We did a lot of research. I did a lot of research. On how to do this from the beginning to the end, and why it happened, why it started. So go check that out. Yeah. But now we know what we've all been wondering, that this wasn't just about healthcare. This wasn't about no balls Chucky Schuh and Sombrero Jeffries being afraid for the fanaticals. This was really about Dems playing to their base, because they are losing. Virginia Senator I accidentally wrote Tim Kaine. Virginia Senator Tim Kaine, a Democrat who voted to reopen the government, said the quiet part out loud. A reporter asked him after he voted on it, "Do you wish that you would have started looking for this off-ramp sooner?" Senator Kaine responded with, "I was too focused on the Virginia elections. I wasn't in the discussion on the healthcare to see how dug in they were." So this was just about the election, showing their base that they can stand up against Republicans and Trump. And they lost, by the way. They lost. Like we said earlier, they didn't get anything. Nada. Zilch. Nothing. So not only are the Dems wanting to give free healthcare back to illegal immigrants, not only are the fanaticals in charge, they were also trying to rally their ever-dwindling base for elections they were always going to win. Are we really that surprised that Dems won in New York, New Jersey, and Virginia? Like,
Nope.
It honestly concerns me and surprises me when I see people on the right sad about this. Like, we were never going to win that. Like, even some of the younger guys you talk to, they're like, well, 13%, like, we weren't going to win them. They were blue states. They were already going to stay blue. It's like as if we thought California was going to turn red. The left held 37 million Americans hostage because they're losing. Remember, they said every day gets better for them, and it didn't. And this has beyond backfired for the Democrats. Going into this shutdown, as we said in our first video about this, the New York Times, not a bastion of conservatism and anything right-leaning. The New York Times reported a poll that showed 65 to 27% of Americans did not want the government to shut down over this. CNN reported, by my favorite CNN reporter, that the GOP approval rating is skyrocketing. Take a look.
If anything, it's been helped a little bit. Take a look here, the shift in net popularity versus pre-shutdown. When we're looking at the Republican Party overall, that brand actually up 2 points. That's within the margin of error, but clearly it hasn't dropped. Come over to this side of the screen. Look at the net approval ratings for Republicans in Congress. It's actually up 5 points since pre-shutdown. So what we're seeing here is the Republican brand in Congress has actually improved somewhat compared to where we were pre-shutdown, despite the fact that Republicans control. And that's the math that John Thune and Mike Johnson are looking at is, well, hey, why should we give, and electorally speaking, when our brand has actually improved a little bit?
Now, we say their position is getting better. With whom?
Yeah, okay, with whom? So I think it's two groups that it's so important to keep an eye on. All right, change in the Republican Congress's net approval rating versus pre-shutdown. It's rallying the base for sure. Look at this, the net approval rating up 12 points versus pre-shutdown. But it's not just with the base. It's also with the middle of the electorate. Look at this, among independents. It's up 8 points as well. So we've got a situation here where Republicans with the shutdown are actually rallying their base, but it's also something that's not hurting them with the folks in the middle. If anything, it's helping them with folks in the middle. And this is the type of math that if you're Republicans, you like to see, right? Because something could rally the base but alienate those in the middle, or something could rally those in the middle but alienate the base. But the truth is, we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is the Republican brand has actually gotten better among independents, and it's also gotten better among Republicans as well, that Republican brand when it comes to those in Congress. So again, what's the electoral reason that Republicans would give in at this point?
And Democrats.
I just love him. I wish I was excited about anything as much as that man is excited about statistics and stats. Even the top federal unions broke with the Dems over this shutdown because American workers were hurting. So this is going to be a shorter video because we covered a lot of this in the first video, and this is just kind of seeing the end of this. This was a gigantic nothing burger. This wasn't about healthcare, no matter how many times the liberals want to talk about it. You already have Republicans, including Trump, talking about wanting to make a better healthcare system. Whereas like the left really wanted to give more money to insurance companies that aren't helping us. So let's dissuade ourselves from that bullshit nonsense. This wasn't about healthcare. This was about Chuck Schumer and being threatened by fanaticals that he would lose his power in the Senate. And this was about Democrats trying to rally their base because they lost. They got trounced. They got completely trounced in the 2024 election. And all this did was make us, the right, think, well, maybe, hey, we might actually have a better shot in the midterms coming up in 26. And it's not just something we're thinking. It's something, obviously, that CNN and a lot of these other left-leaning, not bastions of conservatism, left-leaning news sources, legacy media, are also agreeing with. All this did was push people who were like, well, maybe I don't really like everything the Republicans are doing. Maybe the Democrats have a point. To now pushing them more towards the right because they saw, well, hold on. The Democrats are fighting harder to ensure that illegal aliens who come over here illegally, deport them all, change my mind, who come over here illegally get free health care from my tax dollars that I can't get. Because what? They're illegal? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And we saw this with SNAP and EBT, which, by the way, if you haven't watched our last episode on it, abolish the shit out of it. Like, we're done. Make something better. People are mooching off the system way too much. What this comes down to, and I said it in the last video, what this comes down to is the Democrats failing to relate to the American worker were trying to show everyone, trying to put on the show of force and lie to you, the American people, that this was about healthcare when it wasn't. This had nothing to do with healthcare. This had nothing to do with cutting Medicaid, kicking people off. This was them trying to rally an ever-dwindling base. So don't let them tell you otherwise, because this had nothing to do with anything other than that. So hey, thanks for watching. It was kind of a shorter video. We're trying to do more of these just because not everyone wants to watch the longer show. We're going to segment that into parts either way, but appreciate you watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with some friends. What are you gonna do now that the government shut down? Are you just gonna go back to work like everyone else did, or are you gonna go celebrate? Who knows? I'm not gonna do anything. I know this to a lot of people. This really wasn't that interesting, but it was interesting to me just because I remember the last one happened. But hey, again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.